Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the Syndicate Podcast, the place where we listen to stories and share a few thoughts along the way. Today, I've got 5 stories lined up that might stay with you long after the lights go out. But before we dive in, I just want to be upfront and let you all know that the narration you're hearing is an AI-generated version of my voice. I use it to keep the delivery consistent and true to the story. But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, so get comfortable and let's begin. I was hiking the Appalachian Trail with my father on a multi-day backpacking trip. As the evening settled in, we stopped at one of the public trail cabins to rest for the night. We dropped our packs, started a small campfire, and joined a middle-aged couple who were already there. The 4 of us talked casually as the sun dipped below the trees, assuming no one else would be arriving so late. That assumption didn't last long. Out of the shadows came a massive man with long silver hair tied back in a ponytail. He set down a small pack beneath the cabin's awning and silently joined us at the fire. He was easily over 6.5 feet tall, built like a professional wrestler, and moved with a quiet confidence that immediately put everyone on edge, though his expression remained calm. At first, the conversation continued. He even seemed friendly. Eventually, my father asked him a simple question. "So where are you from?" No response. My father repeated himself, thinking the man hadn't heard. Still nothing. Then the other hiker asked the same question. Without warning, the large man erupted in anger, shouting that he didn't know where he was from. The sudden shift in his demeanor froze all of us. He then reached into his pack, pulled out a large knife and a sharpening stone, and began grinding the blade slowly, deliberately, by the firelight. No one said a word after that. Within minutes, we quietly gathered our things and agreed to leave. The next cabin was about 7 miles away, and we decided walking through the night was safer than staying where we were. It was exhausting, but we eventually reached the next shelter. Someone else was already there, a scruffy hiker who looked rough but acted harmless. Relieved, we sat by the fire to rest. That's when I noticed movement. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a reflection. When I turned my head, my heart dropped. Standing silently at the edge of the tree line was the same silver-haired man watching us. There was no sound, no footsteps, just his outline between the trees. I quietly warned the others. One of the hikers revealed he was carrying a revolver and firmly told the man to leave. For a long moment, the figure didn't move. Then without a word, he turned and vanished into the forest. So quietly, it was as if he had never been there at all. After that, we agreed someone needed to stay awake and keep watch. The armed hiker volunteered while the rest of us tried to sleep. Morning eventually came. The man never returned, but when we woke up, our lookout had fallen asleep during the night. Even now, thinking about how close that could have been still sends chills down my spine. I don't know how else to say this. What you saw was not a human, okay? This is the Appalachian Mountain that we're talking about. Do you know what they're known for? The Appalachian Mountains are known for creepy things like Wendigos, skinwalkers, Bigfoot, UFOs, and plenty of other cryptids that I didn't name. What you saw was a skinwalker attempting to look like a human, but accidentally or probably purposefully took the form of Bigfoot. And that explains why he got mad when you guys were pressing him about where he was from. Because he's from that mountain. He lives there. That's his place. That's his home. Man, if I saw a 6'8" man built like Brock Lesnar with silver hair, I'm calling him the Geralt of Appalachia. And I'm leaving. I'm leaving that place immediately. There's 2 things you don't mess with. You don't mess with Geralt, or you don't mess with Appalachia. I've heard too many stories about this place, the Appalachian Mountains, and this is another reason why I don't like the woods, because you never know what's in there. But with that said, let's move on to the next video. I've experienced sleep paralysis for as long as I can remember, since I was very young. The pattern has always been the same. I fall asleep and dream normally. It feels like I've slept through the entire night. Then I wake up. At least, I think I do. I'm always in the same room where I fell asleep, but something immediately feels wrong. There's a heaviness in the air, a sense of dread that hits before I even understand why. And then I realize it. There's someone else in the room, watching me. It's never exactly the same figure. Sometimes it's a man crouched in the corner. Sometimes it's someone leaning over my bed. Sometimes it's hands hovering over or brushing against my body. When I was a child, I would try to scream for my father, but no sound ever came out. My face would burn as I tried, but all that escaped was my breath. The figure would just stare at me. Then I would wake up for real. That's when I'd realize I hadn't been awake at all, despite being completely certain that I was. This cycle followed me my entire life. Wake up, feel terror, see a man, try to scream, wake up again. Over time, I even learned to recognize the signs earlier, the small details that told me it wasn't real, so I could calm myself and force myself awake before it escalated. That is, until one night in 2015. It was Halloween night and I came home with a friend. At the time, I lived with several roommates, and that night my friend was sleeping in my roommate's bed, just a few feet away from mine. I had been asleep for hours when I felt something touch the foot of my bed. I opened my eyes. There was a man crouched at the end of my bed. He was dressed entirely in black. A hood was pulled tight around his face, and dark sunglasses covered his eyes, hiding nearly all of his features. For a split second, I told myself this had to be sleep paralysis again. I recognized the feeling. I recognized the fear. But before I could stop myself, I tried to scream. This time, I could hear it, a scream ripped out of me, loud, raw, and horrifying. It sounded like someone being attacked. The sound wouldn't stop. It echoed through the room. It took a terrifying moment for me to realize the scream was coming from me. I didn't recognize my own voice. The man jumped up, ran from the room, slammed the door, and I heard him sprint through the house. Everything went silent. My friend sat frozen in the bed beside me. No one else in the house came running. I felt like a helpless child again. Shaking, I turned to my friend and asked, "Is this when you call emergency services?" She didn't answer. My hands were trembling when I made the call myself. I barely remember what I said, only that I was crying, terrified that the man was still inside the house, or that something had happened to my roommates since none of them had responded. The operator told us to lock the door and stay inside until help arrived. We waited for hours. By the time I saw the police outside, the sun was rising. I ran out of the house crying and screaming, barely able to speak. The rest of the story is quiet by comparison. The man was never caught. He had stolen a neighbor's bike, which was later recovered, but he disappeared completely. I tried therapy afterward, but it didn't help. I was given medication and sent home, but it only left me awake, shaking, and exhausted. My sleep suffered. My schoolwork suffered. Eventually, I stopped expecting rest at all. I'm doing better now, but I've accepted that I don't sleep like other people. Sudden movement wakes me instantly. Unexpected sounds make me panic. If someone touches me in my sleep, I scream. I don't dwell on it anymore. So as I was reading this story, my conclusion was, are you sure this wasn't another sleep paralysis moment, but this time you were able to scream? And the reason why I say that is because she was the only one who saw, witnessed, and heard everything, right? Her friend who was next to her didn't hear anything. Only she did, and no one else in the room came to check up on her and what was going on. And like, I never had sleep paralysis before, but I've had dreams where it felt real, right? Like I could feel the people's touches, I could smell the environment around me, and like everything around me felt real. Could this have been another moment where she was having sleep paralysis, but a more like vivid version of it? I'll let you all decide. And as for the bike that was stolen, it could have been anyone. Like honestly, it could have been something before that, right? That happened a week ago or anything. But either way, experiencing something like this has to be horrifying. Because if it happened to me, I know I would be freaking out. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. Before I start, a little background. When I was a kid, I was terrified of the dark. I couldn't sleep with the lights off, and I always needed my bedroom door open. I was easily scared, but there was another reason I stayed close to my mom. She got sick often. Whenever she caught something, it would linger. What might take someone else a few days to recover would take her weeks. Her immune system just wasn't very strong, and as a child, that made me worry constantly. When I was around 7 or 8 years old, something started happening. One night, I woke up suddenly with a strange feeling, like someone was watching me. My room was quiet. Nothing looked out of place. I told myself I was just tired, that my imagination was getting the best of me, and I eventually fell back asleep. The next night, it happened again. That same uneasy feeling pulled me out of sleep, but this time I noticed something different. My closet door was slightly open. I clearly remembered closing it before going to bed. Panicked, I ran to my mom's room. She listened calmly and told me I probably hadn't shut it all the way. The house was old, the doors didn't sit evenly, and it likely drifted open on its own. I stayed with her for the rest of the night. The following evening, she gently insisted I sleep in my own room again. That night, I woke up to a sound coming from my closet. At first, I recognized it. It was my toy. Some of them had voice lines, little phrases they played when you pressed a button, but something was wrong. The voices sounded distorted, slow, and uneven, like they were struggling to finish their sentences. I tried to explain it away. Maybe the batteries were dying, but then I remembered something important. Those toys only played sounds if someone pressed the button. I hadn't touched them. Terrified, I started crying until my mom rushed into my room. I told her the toys were talking on their own. She held me, calmed me down, and told me it was probably a bad dream. I spent the night in her room again, and many nights after that. Eventually, she told me it was time to try sleeping in my room once more. That night, I stayed awake. I lay there, staring into the darkness, waiting for something to happen. Hours passed. Just as I started to drift off, I heard it. The slow, unmistakable creak of my closet door opening. The temperature in my room dropped instantly. The air felt heavy and cold. I sat up in bed, frozen, staring at the closet. And then I saw them. 2 sets of eyes staring back at me from the darkness. I screamed louder than I ever had before. My mom came running, asking what was wrong, shaking. I told her there was someone in my closet. She walked over and opened the door, but whatever I had seen was gone. I didn't sleep in my room again for 2 weeks. When I finally returned, things seemed normal. For a while. Then one night, I woke up to whispering. The voices were quiet, but clear enough to understand. She'll never find out about us. Suddenly, everything in my closet began to shake, like something unseen was moving violently inside it. The noise built into a deep rumble, and then stopped. Silence. My nightlight clicked off. The room was completely dark. Then I heard the closet door creak open again. The eyes returned, closer this time. The cold intensified, wrapping around me, and I felt frozen in place. Just as they began to move closer, I heard my mom's door open. She had come to check on me. The moment she stepped into my room, everything stopped. She asked why it was so cold and why my nightlight was off, something I never slept without. I told her it had been turned off, and that whatever was in my closet wanted to hurt me. After that night, I didn't sleep in my room for a long time. Eventually, my mom called a priest and told him everything. He explained that what I was experiencing could be a demon, something drawn to fear and vulnerability. A few days later, he came and blessed at our home. After that, things finally felt normal again. But what truly frightened me was what my mom told me later. During the days before the blessing, she had experienced something too. She said she woke up one night unable to breathe, freezing cold, and felt something hovering over her. She saw the same presence I had described. After that, she felt weak and exhausted for days. Years passed before I experienced anything like that again, but when I did, it was different. These new presences didn't try to harm me, they didn't whisper, they didn't move, they just watched. Why does every scary story have to start in the room? It's either your closet, at the foot of your bed, or next to you. Like these types of stories, they stick with me because everyone has a room, right? Like, that's the place where we're supposed to feel safe and secure and go to sleep. And hearing these stories make me look at my room and think, what if this happened to me, you know? And like the other thing too is the mom acknowledging that the room was cold and that the nightlight was off. This is her validating that everything that is happening is real and not just in the kid's head. And I kind of feel like when or if you're ever in this situation, you don't want it to be real, right? Like you tell yourself, like, it's just in my head, none of this is happening, if I ignore it, it will go away. Like those types of things, like you tell yourself that. But having someone else who's not experiencing it validate it and validate that it's really happening is on a whole nother level of fear, because now you know it's real and that it's really happening. And so then what do you do about it? I don't know. You could tell them, but you're going to sound crazy, you know. I'll leave that up to you all to decide. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. There's a strange habit I have now, one a friend finally noticed a few weeks ago. Whenever I enter a room and close the door, I turn my face away and shut my eyes until I hear the lock click. Only then do I look again. He joked about it at first, said it made me look paranoid. I laughed it off until he asked why I did it. That habit started about a year ago. I work for a water seal manufacturing company based in St. Paul. We treat exposed wood, decks, docks, boats, that sort of thing. One week, I was sent on a short business trip to a decaying industrial park outside a small town near Icor Falls. That's where I stayed at the Hotel Umbra. The place looked like it had been forgotten by time. The lobby smelled stale, the wallpaper was yellowed, and everything, from the furniture to the front desk, seemed coated in a thin layer of dust. Even the elderly man checking me in looked like he hadn't moved much in years. My room was on the 4th floor. The hotel had an old cable elevator, the kind with a rattling metal gate and solid outer doors. I stepped inside, pulled the gate shut, latched it, and pressed the button. Just as the outer doors were closing, a young woman's face rushed toward the narrowing gap. Too late. The doors sealed shut, and the elevator began its slow climb. I brushed it off as coincidence. Maybe someone had just missed it. A few minutes later, I realized I'd forgotten a bag in my car and headed back down. Same elevator, same routine. And again, just before the doors closed, I saw her face. This time, I reacted. I hit the door open button and forced the doors apart. The hallway outside was empty. No footsteps, no open doors, no sign that anyone had been there at all. I stayed inside the elevator, watching the narrowing gap as the doors tried to close again. That's when I saw her clearly. Fingers appeared first, then her face darting forward at the last possible moment. She looked young, maybe 13, pale skin, dark, uneven hair. Her expression wasn't angry or threatening, just blank, wide-eyed, like she was searching for something or someone. Later, I asked the man at the front desk if there was a child staying at the hotel. He nodded slowly. "You've seen Sally then?" He said her name like it was something everyone should already know. He explained that Sally had been around for a long time. She never spoke, never touched anyone. She only watched, especially guests who stayed alone. "She's curious," he said. "That's all. Just wants to see." I stayed 3 nights at the Hotel Umbra. On the 4th, I couldn't take it anymore. Because Sally didn't stay in the hallway. She appeared everywhere a space was closing. When I shut the bathroom door, I'd see her face sliding into view at the last instant. When I closed the closet, she'd already be inside. When I pushed a drawer shut, she rushed forward from the darkness within it, her eyes fixed on mine. I never saw her for more than a fraction of a second, but she was always exactly where my eyes would land. I slept in my car the final night. It didn't help. When I opened my eyes, there she was, reflected in the side mirror peeking over the hood, once even upside down at the top of the windshield. I left the next morning. It's been a year since then. I'm back home, back to normal life, but Sally never stayed behind. If I stare at a place long enough, a copier at work, a stack of boxes, the gap between parked cars, I'll see movement. Just in time to catch her retreating out of sight. so I stopped looking. I closed my eyes when I shut doors, drawers, cabinets, anything large enough to hide a space. That worked. Until a few nights ago, I was brushing my teeth, staring into the bathroom mirror, everything closed, everything still. I opened my mouth to rinse, and for just a second, I swear I felt something move away, somewhere I couldn't see, like she had finally found a place I couldn't close my eyes against. I am never looking at cracks the same ever again. Imagine this, okay? You're closing a door, and right when it's about to close, you see a figure of a little girl running up to the door at superhuman speed, and before you can close it, you see little fingers coming through the cracks. And when she gets to the door, she doesn't say anything. She's just there, peeking at you, with her fingers coming through the cracks and her wide open eyes looking at you. That is terrifying, all right? I'm sticking to what I said about kids being the center of a horror movie. They creep me out. And this is the reason why. Like, I don't know what it is. It just seems very creepy to me. But with that said, let's move on to the next story. In the mountains where fog clung to the trees like breaths held too long, people spoke quietly about vows that should never be broken, even by death. Jay knew the story well. Everyone did. When two lovers mixed blood and drank from one another, they promised not only life together, but eternity. Even in death, the bond remained, especially in death. He and Mai had laughed when they made their vow. A shallow cut, a shared bowl, a kiss afterward to wash away the copper taste. Young love always believed it was stronger than consequences. Mai died 3 years later. The illness took her quickly, too quickly. 1 week she was singing while cooking, the next she was coughing blood into cloth and staring at him with terrified eyes. When she passed, Jay held her hand until it went cold, whispering apologies he didn't understand yet. The elders warned him, "Do not wander alone at night," one said. "If she calls your name, do not answer," another whispered. "And whatever you do," an old woman told him, her voice shaking, "do not let her touch you." Jay didn't believe them. Not at first. The first time he saw her, he thought grief had finally broken him. She stood at the edge of the forest near their home, just beyond the lantern light. Her face was the same, but wrong. Her eyes were sunken and blackened, as if something had rotted behind them. Her mouth smiled too wide, stretching skin that no longer fit properly on her face. "Come with me," she whispered. Her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Jay froze. The air around her smelled like iron and damp earth. When she took a step forward, the ground beneath her darkened, grass wilting instantly. He ran. That night, he packed only what he could carry and left before dawn. But distance meant nothing to the vow. Mai followed him. Sometimes she appeared at crossroads, standing just close enough to be seen. Other times, she waited outside windows, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, watching him sleep. Every time she looked worse, skin splitting, veins visible beneath translucent flesh, blood slowly leaking from her eyes like tears. She never chased him. She didn't need to. Wherever Jay went, shadows grew longer. Dogs refused to approach him. People he stayed with fell ill or dreamed of a woman standing over their beds, smiling with a mouth full of blood. And always, just before he fled again, Mai would appear. "Why are you running?" she asked one night, standing in the doorway of a rented room. Her feet hovered inches above the floor, dripping something dark that vanished before it hit the ground. "You promised me forever." Jay backed away, heart pounding. Her neck bent sharply to the side, bones cracking loudly as she tilted her head further, studying him. "I'm lonely," she said softly. He ran again. The elders had been right about one thing. If the dead lover touched the living, death followed instantly. Jay learned this when he saw a man in another village, a stranger who had tried to help him. Mai appeared behind the man while Jay watched from across the road, frozen in terror. She placed her hand gently on the stranger's shoulder. The man collapsed immediately, blood pouring from his mouth and nose, eyes wide with shock. Mai was focused on Jay. After that, Jay never stayed anywhere longer than a few days. He slept during the day and traveled at night, though darkness only made her easier to see. Sometimes she crawled instead of walked, her limbs bending backward like a broken doll. Other times she appeared suddenly in front of him, forcing him to change direction, her laughter echoing through the trees. Years passed. Jay grew thin. His hair turned gray. His lungs burned constantly. He knew he couldn't outrun her forever. One night, exhausted and bleeding from his feet, he collapsed near a river. The moon reflected on the water, like a pale eye staring back at him. Mai emerged from the trees slowly. Her body was barely human now. Skin hung in strips. Her jaw sagged loosely, revealing teeth stained black with dried blood. Her eyes glowed faintly, fixed on him with unbearable hunger. "I found you," she said. Jay crawled backward until the river touched his hands. Tears streamed down his face. "I loved you," he sobbed. "I still do." Her head snapped upright at that. "Then stop running and come with me." She reached for him. At the last moment, Jay threw himself into the river. The current dragged him away as Mai looked on. He didn't look back. They say Jay was never seen again. Some believe he drowned. Others say he is still running, cursed to wander endlessly, never able to rest, never able to stop. And in the mountains, when someone swears love that will last forever, the elders still warn them. Forever is a very long time. Now this story hits close to home. And the reason being is because I'm an Asian, and this story is actually talking about what not to do in our culture, right? And so according to my parents, I had an aunt who did this with her best friend. And when they were in Laos, they swore to each other that they would be together forever. And one night, her best friend passed away. Immediately after her friend's passing, my aunt began seeing her best friend everywhere she went. Like, she never said anything, she never did anything, but all she did was stand there and wait for my aunt, almost like she was waiting for my aunt to pass so that they can go to the, I guess, afterlife together. But whatever, you know? But saying that is giving me goosebumps already. Like, it got so bad for my aunt that she had to move places constantly to make sure that she was safe. And eventually, a local shaman in the area heard about it and did some kind of ritual to get rid of my aunt's friend. And now, keep in mind that my aunt had to change her name and move away from her village. And so that, after the ritual, after doing all that, it stopped, supposedly. You know, but I know I'm never messing with that stuff. I'm not messing with any Ouija boards, no pentagrams, no blood bonds, none of that stuff. And that, to me, like, that's as real as it gets. You know, there's nothing fiction about summoning demons and evil spirits in your life, because those things are real. Thank you all for tuning in on this week's video. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please go ahead and mug the like button and give all of their belongings to the subscribe button. If you have any stories that you would like to see on this channel, send them to my email, syndicatepodcast247@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to check them out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.